everybody and welcome to the Cosy Cross Sweater tutorial. Just a couple of quick things for me. The tutorial is in US terms. I am providing measurements from sizes extra small to 5XL and all of the measurements will appear on the screen as and when we're going to need them. It's made to measure, so you can use any ply or any type of yarn that you want to use, also any hook size that you want to use as well. And just a little bit about the construction. We are going to be making 2 panels, one front, one back, adding some sleeves and then any other finishing touches. So I am using DK yarn with a 5mm hook. I'm using Deramore's. I'm not sure if this has been discontinued, but I will write it in the description what I am using. And then just all your other little bits: stitch marker, measuring tape, scissors and tapestry needle. Right, let's go everybody. So of course I forgot to mention something, always do, but that's okay, we're right at the beginning. So we're going to be making a chain to begin with. I suggest going up 1 hook size, well half a hook size actually. I've got a 5.5mm here. I'm going to make my chain with this and then I'm going to put that away and I'm going to use my 5mm after that. Sorry, my voice is going, that's not a good start. So we're going to be making a chain for our back panel. We're doing the back panel first, we're going to make a chain and I am about to put the measurements up on the screen for how long your chain needs to be. It also needs to be a multiple of 4, okay? So I'm going to do my chain off screen, but you need to make a chain to the measurement that I am now about to put on the screen. I've got the wrong hook for a start, look at that. And it has to be a multiple of 4. So I will meet you back here when I have my chain. I am now going to put the measurements on the screen. Okay, so I have done my chain to 64, which is a multiple of 4. So I'm going to line it up against a tape measure and just make sure that I'm not stretching it to its maximum capacity, but just to make sure that it's nice and straight, there's no kinks going on. Like, there is a chance that when you do this, because it is made to measure, there is a chance you might have to come back and readjust your chain. But we're going to measure after about row 3, row 4, okay, to make sure that you're on track. And I know I always say it can be disheartening if you get there and you think, oh, it's not right. But it's better to sort it out on row 3 or row 4 compared to doing a whole panel and being like, oh no, it's not going right. So yeah, that is my chain. I am ready to go. Before we start row 1, I'm just going to take out my 5.5mm hook that I used for the chain. And I'm going to put back my original 5mm. I'm so pleased I remembered that because sometimes I forget. Okay, row 1. Let me just zoom in a tiny little bit. So for row 1, we're just going to do single crochets into our chain. So to start it off, we're going to chain 1 just to get a bit of height. So we're going to chain 1 and skip that stitch. So I like to keep my thumb on the last chain that I made, the closest chain to the hook. So I'm going to chain 1, I'm going to ignore that chain that I just made and go into the chain where my thumb is and just place 1 single crochet in every single chain along this row. So I'll meet you back here at the end. And just make sure that you definitely do have the correct amount of stitches. It needs to be a multiple of 4 by the time you get to the end of this row. So I've gone all the way across and put 1 single crochet in every single chain. Row 2, lovely and easy again. We're just going to do another row of single crochets. So we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn our work, and we're going to go in the same stitch as the chain 1 and place 1 single crochet, and then place 1 single crochet in every single stitch all the way to the end of the row. So I will meet you back here once you've completed your row 2 of single crochets. Right, it's time for row 3. Row 3 is going to be repeated a total number of 4 times, and we're going to be doing the cross stitch. So what we're going to do is chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That classes as your first double crochet. Then we're going to turn our work like so, and then we need to skip the next stitch. Okay, so let's have a look what we've got going on right now. We've chained 3 and we've turned our work. Now we have a stitch here. That isn't the stitch that we're going to skip. That is technically your chain 3, which is also technically your first double crochet. So just ignore that one right there. We need to skip the second one along, which is that one. And we're going to work a double crochet into the third one. Okay, so we chain 3, turn our work, skip the next stitch, and place 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So when you're looking at it, it looks like the third stitch. It's really important you get that bit right. Otherwise, you're going to come to the end of your row and be like, oh, what's happened? I've not got enough stitches. And usually it's that little bugger right there. Excuse my language. No, I didn't quite swear, but I said bugger. It's that little bugger right there that is the culprit. So place a double crochet in that stitch. Now we're going to come back to the one that we have just skipped, and we're going to put a double crochet in there. And then it's going to give us this kind of like cross shape. So now we're going to do the same thing. We need to skip the next stitch, but you need to look at your stitches, okay? Because if you look at that one right there, you might think, oh, that's the one I've got to skip. If you look closely, you will see that has the first double crochet in it. So don't even think about skipping that one. Well, do, but don't, do you know what I mean? That's already got a stitch in it. You're going to skip this one and then come to your next one along and place a double crochet in there. Come back to your skip stitch right next to it and place a double crochet in there. And then you're going to keep doing that all the way along until 1 stitch remains. So skip the next stitch, go in the next one with a double crochet. Just need to get a bit of extra yarn. And then come back to your skip stitch and place a double crochet in there. Skip the next stitch, which is this one. Come to the next stitch along and place a double crochet. Come back to your skip stitch and place a double crochet in there. And this is how it should look. So we're going to keep doing that. Skip the next stitch, place a double crochet in the next stitch, come back to the skip stitch and place a double crochet in there. So keep repeating this all the way across until 1 stitch remains. And if you don't have 1 stitch, you've either got the wrong stitch count or you've accidentally made a little error somewhere when you've been skipping stitches. But once you do get the hang of this, it is really easy. You just got to be mindful of the stitches that you're skipping, stitches that have already got stitches in them, that sort of thing. And just take your time and concentrate. Says me. I normally get to like 3 rows down. I'm like, oh my goodness, I've gone wrong. Like loads of rows ago. I'm terrible for it, but I like to watch TV at the same time. So, but right, I'll meet you back here when we have 1 stitch remaining. Okay, I have stopped a little bit early. I have 3 stitches remaining, which is perfect because I have 1 more cross stitch to place and 1 double crochet. So I'm going to skip my next stitch, come in the next stitch along and place a double crochet, come back to my skipped stitch and place a double crochet. Oops, it didn't go in. And now I have one stitch remaining and I'm going to put one double crochet in that stitch. And there we are. And now we're going to repeat that row. So we have a total of 4 rows of double cross stitch. Now I'm just going to do a little bit of that with you. Not much because we've just done it, but just a little recap. So it's chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. Now this is going to be slightly easier than the base layer, I like to call that, the base row, because we're literally just going to be going in the top of the cross stitch that you did on the previous row. So it's just easier to spot. If you start going skew width and your crosses are landing in between, something has gone wrong. So we are going to ignore this stitch here because we already have a chain on top of it. Skip the next stitch and go into the next one with a double crochet. And then come back to the skip stitch and place another double crochet. Again, keep repeating that and you will be going on top of your double cross stitch. I didn't know whether or not to say double crochet or cross stitch, so I kind of mingled the two together. You're going on top of the cross stitch from the previous row. Lovely jubblies. So I'm going to meet you back here when we have a total of 4 rows of double cross stitch. Right, I have done 4 rows of the cross stitch. I keep wanting to call it the double cross stitch, but it's not, it's the cross stitch. I've got my tape measure out to have a look at where I'm at. Now I suggest just to give it a little stretch like this, because I am actually going to suggest as well that once you have done your panels to give them a block. Now usually I am a serial non-blocker and I will happily admit that, but because we're doing the cross stitch where we're kind of going back on ourselves, it can come in a little bit. So keep that in mind, right? If you like measure it, you're like, oh, it's really short. Just give it a little stretchy stretch and then re-measure and see where you're at. And if you think to yourself, yes, I'm going to block that, everything's going to be fine, then carry on, yeah? I am actually going to block this for the first time ever. Well, it's not really the first time ever, but like I say, I am a non-blocker. I can't help it. Right. What row are we on now? Let me just have a little look at my notes a minute. Blah, 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 blah. Row 7? Yeah? Does that sound right? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Row 7. I'm still keeping with the same colour for row 7 and I'm going to change colour on row 8. Right, row 7. Row 7 is super easy. All we're going to be doing is 1 row of single crochet. So we're going to chain 1, turn our work, go back in the very first stitch with 1 single crochet and then place 1 single crochet in every single stitch along the row. One thing I didn't add, which I hope you have worked out, because normally I do go through the end of the rows and stuff. The end of row 2, or the second double crochet. Why do I keep calling it double crochet? Cross stitch row. Your final row needs to go in the top of the chain 3. Normally I always say that, but that is the final stitch. Hopefully you guys picked up on that because we are using the chain 3s as our as a double crochet. I can't get none of my words out right now, so that's great. Ha ha ha. Let's come back to here and place 1 single crochet in every stitch until you get to the end of the row, and that's what I was going to say, making sure you go in the top of your chain 3 because that is your final stitch with a single crochet. I'll meet you back here when row 7 is complete. So yeah, I'm at the end of my row. I've got 1 stitch left to place. Make sure that it goes in the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the previous row. So I just give it a little twist towards me and go straight through the V, picking up 2 loops and then place my final single crochet. Okay, so it's now time for row 8. I am going to do a colour change. You don't have to if you don't want to. If you're using the same colour, you need to chain 1 and then turn your work. But I am going to change colour, and I like to change colour just by fastening off and attaching with a slip stitch. If you like to do it a different way, that's fine as well. Right, let me get my pink. I'm just going to join in with a slip stitch in the very first stitch, and then we should all be at the same part. Okay, row 8 is a back post single crochet, and this is going to add a lovely little bit of texture into the sweater. Now if you do it and you're like, oh, I don't really know if I like it, then feel free to do a regular single crochet row. Okay, so if you're not keen on it, just repeat row 7 for row 8. So it's just chain 1, turn your work, 1 single crochet in every stitch. So yeah, but I'm going to do the back post single crochet. So for the first stitch, we're going to place a regular single crochet. So it's chain 1, because I haven't chained 1 yet, sorry everybody. So chain 1, and I'm going to place 1 single crochet in my very first stitch. So now I'm going to be doing a back post single crochet, and I am going to go around the very first bar that I see from the previous row. So I'm going to come in through the back, come out and go round the other side and just do a single crochet. Wiggle, 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 single crochet. And then I'm going to keep doing this until 1 stitch remains. So I'm going to come through this stitch here from the back. I'm going to poke my hook out. I'm going to wrap it around this bar and go through the other side and come out the back. And I'm going to place a single crochet. Like so. And what that's going to do is going to push the white top of the white stitches forwards. It just gives this nice little textured detail. So here we go again, going in through the back, coming around this single crochet bar, coming back out the other side and placing a single crochet. So I'm just going to keep doing that all the way along this row until 1 stitch remains, but wait for me because I'm just going to show you something as well, because we're not going to go round the last single crochet bar, because if you do that you're going to accidentally add on an extra stitch. So I will meet you back here at the end of this row. Look, you can see what it's doing. It's pushing the previous row out and it's creating this lovely little textured part. You're going to see it better once you start adding more rows on, but I think it's cute. Just gives it a little something, a little extra pizzazz. Okay, I'll meet you back here near the end of this row. Okay, so I have gone all along the row. I have got 1 stitch left. So we are not going to place a back post single crochet around this stitch here. We are just going to go straight into the final stitch with a single crochet. Now, if, like I said before, if you place a back post single crochet around that bar, you're going to end up with an extra stitch, okay? So just place 1 single crochet in the final stitch, and that is our pretty row 8. So that is pretty much our stitch pattern. I'm going to go over it a bit more with you and then let you do your thing. So we're just going to be repeating ourselves from here on out. We have now got to do 4 rows of the cross stitch. So I'm going to do a little bit with you and just point out some little tips, because things that I've done which I've been like, oh no, not noticed a few rows ahead. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about right now. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That's our first double. Turn our work. So remember, you're not, you're ignoring that one right there. Skipping the next stitch, come into the next stitch along and place your first double crochet. Now when you're placing it on this row, only this row, you just got to be careful that you're not picking up this bit that you've, this bit that's coming out. So that's the previous row stitches. For me, they are white. Make sure you don't accidentally hook into them, because it's easy done because they are sticking out and protruding. So I've done that a few times where I've accidentally hooked onto those. And then I've noticed like 2 or 3 rows later and been like, oh no, it's so noticeable. You have to go back and sort it. So let me come back to my skip stitch to create my first cross stitch. So keep adding the cross stitch and just being very mindful that you don't accidentally hook up. It'll be row 7. The stitches from row 7. So yeah, that's about all I've got to say, I think. Add 4 rows of the cross stitch and I will meet you back here when you have them. 4 rows of cross stitch. See you soon. So I've just added my 4 rows of cross stitch, and then the next row is a single crochet row. So we are literally just doing this repeat. This is going to be the final row, and then I'm going to change colour again, and then I'm going to be doing the back post single crochet row. So we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and 1 single crochet in every single stitch, making sure you put your final single crochet in the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the previous row. So I will meet you back here when we have done that. Yeah, and that's pretty much it really. It's quite easy, isn't it? Just repeated over and over again. So I've just finished my single crochet row. The next row is the back post single crochet, and I'm going to be changing colour back to my cream. I'm just going to fasten off. Now I'm not going to go through with you that row again, but what I am going to do is I'm going to timestamp it in the written description of the video. Okay, so I'm going to timestamp the back post single crochet row. Then after that, it's going to be 4 rows of cross stitch. I'm going to write all this in there as well. 4 rows of cross stitch, then a single crochet row. Then I change colour. Then it's the back post single crochet row, 4 rows of cross stitch, 1 single crochet row, change colour. And you keep repeating those sections, is what I'm going to call it, is a section. Keep repeating that section until you are happy with the length of your sweater. So what I tend to do is I hold the back panel up to the top of my shoulders and let it fall down. Or I'm going to put some measurements on the screen in a minute, which will be a rough guide that you can aim for. You obviously will not hit the measurement exactly. Maybe you will, but there's a big possibility that you won't because we're working in sections. Your final row needs to be the row that we have just done, which is just the plain old regular single crochet row. The row before the back post single crochet row. Okay, so you're going to stop on the regular single crochet row and that will be your back panel done. So I will now put the measurements on the screen for length, suggested length that you can aim for. So yeah, just keep making your back panel until you're happy with it. So I have my back panel. I can't quite fit it all in, but there it is. So my final row was the regular single crochet row, and I also left a long tail for seaming. That's completely optional, but I like to do that. I like to leave long tails to seam because it means I have a less end to weave in. A less end to weave in? That doesn't really make sense, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, so we now need to make one more panel, and that's going to be for the front. It's going to be exactly the same, so remember to get your hook that is one size larger, chain the exact same number of chains that you did for your back panel. So mine was 64, yours might be different, but mine was 64. And then you are going to keep working up your front panel, but you are going to stop one section short, okay? So I am going to miss off this section of my front panel. So I'm going to stop at the end of this pink here, but keep your, oh actually I say keep your yarn attached. I'm going to be changing colour, aren't I? Yeah, I mean if you're using the same colour throughout, you don't need to fasten off. I will fasten off though, because I'm going to be changing colour. So then what we're going to do is we're going to use this area on the front panel that will be missing to add a bit of neckline shaping. So yes, make your front panel exactly the same as your back panel minus the top section. Goodbye top section. So I'll meet you back here when you have your front panel-ish. Front panel-ish, because we'll still have to add on neckline shaping. So yeah, see you in a bit. Okay, I have crocheted my front panel and I've currently got it laying on top of my back panel. So I crocheted one less section for my front panel. So it should sit like this when you put them together. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to put some neckline shaping on. We're going to add a little bit here, a little bit here, so that we've then got a gap in the middle for our head. So let's do that now. So for this section, you are going to need a tape measure and a couple of stitch markers. Now I am going to place a measurement on the screen in a minute, and that is going to be your measurement for measuring out towards one edge. So let me just place the measurements on the screen right now. Okay, so I am making a size small. My measurement says 14.5 centimetres. We're going to give or take that a little bit because in order to keep doing our stitch pattern, we need our stitches to be a multiple of 4. And I can't guarantee that when I do this measurement, it's going to be a multiple of 4. So let me just zoom in a little bit. So my measurement was 14.5 centimetres. So I'm going to take my tape measure and I'm just going to measure from this top corner here inwards, 14.5 centimetres. And then I'm going to place a stitch marker. Oh, hang on a minute, I've just dropped my tape measure. I'm going to place a stitch marker in the measurement that is closest to 14.5. So that's that one here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to count all of my stitches, including the one with the stitch marker in, and I'm going to let you know what number I have. So I'm going to do that off camera. Right, so I've got 22 stitches from here to here. 22 does not go into 4, so I will not be able to continue doing the stitch pattern. So I need 2 more or 2 less. But because we're doing the neckline, I always suggest to take stitches away so you're going back towards the edge rather than adding stitches on, because you're going to make your neckline smaller, and we don't really want to get this far and then be like, oh, my head won't fit through the hole. So I'm going to go back to 20 because 20 divides by 4. I think. I hope it does. I'm so bad at my times table. 1, 2. So I've gone backwards 2 stitches. I've just flipped that everywhere. And I'm going to place my stitch marker in the 20th stitch. So now I have a multiple of 4 and I'm happy with that. I just had a slight panic attack that 20 didn't divide by 4. I've just checked the calculator. Everything's fine. It does. It definitely does. So I don't need my tape measure now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come this opposite side, starting from the beginning, and I am going to count 20 stitches across and place my next stitch marker. So I'm going to do that off screen because I don't want to bore you all. I have both my stitch markers placed. Now, if you want to make adjustments, now is the time. Because we are all using different yarns, I'm using DK. So if I'd use chunky, my sections are going to be slightly wider. So I might look and think, oh, is this going to be a big neckline? Maybe I might bring it in a little bit. Same as if you used 4-ply yarn, your sections are going to be smaller. So you might want to make your stitch markers come out a little bit more, so you've got a bit more room for your head, because you've got, if I just grab this one and put it underneath again, make sure I've got it the right way. Yeah, that is right. If I put them together, you can kind of get a feel for like how much you're going to be adding on. Basically, we're going to do one more section. We're going to finish off our sections, but we're not going all the way across because we won't have nowhere to put our head. We're going to do a little bit here and a little bit here, okay? So you could always do it and then try it on, and if you're not happy, then go back and readjust these. I know it's a bit awkward, but like I said before, it's made to measure. I've done it this way so you can use any yarn that you wish, any ply. Sometimes you do have to make minor adjustments, but it might be okay. But the best thing to do is just try it and see what you think. So I'm going to go ahead. Hopefully it's all right. Fingers crossed. Even if it comes out a bit wide, then we have the option to add more stitches around it when it's done. So there's lots of different things you can do. Not just frog it all and start again. You totally can add more stitches around the neckline to bring it in. So yeah, we'll see how we goes when we get there. I feel like mine, looking at it, I'm like, is it going to be a bit tight? I don't know. It is hard to tell. I'm not going to lie, it is hard to tell. There's only one way to find out. Let's do it! Yeah! I don't know why I did that. Apologies. Okay, so we're just going to be doing exactly what we have, but on a much smaller scale. Now, I'm changing colour. So if you're sticking with the same colour, you will need to chain one and turn your work. And then let me just get myself sorted so we're all at the same bit, because I'm just going to attach my new yarn in. I've been ever so good as well. I've been weaving my ends in. Been very good. So let me just get this in here, like so. I'm going to join it in with a slip stitch. And then I'm going to chain one, so we're all at the same bit. So what we're going to do is we are going to put single crochet in the same stitch. This row falls on the back post single crochet if you're doing it. If you're doing a regular single crochet row, then that's what you'll be doing right now. If you've done the back post single crochet row, that's what you will now be doing. So let's go around that very first bar that we can see with a back post single crochet, and keep adding in your back post single crochets until you reach the stitch with the stitch marker in it. But do not go around the post before the stitch with the stitch marker, and I'll show you that in a minute. So I'll meet you back here when we reach this first stitch marker. So I have now reached the stitch with the stitch marker in it. I am not going to go around the post before it. I'm just going to go straight in that final stitch with a single crochet. And that's row 1. Row 2, cross stitch. Row 3, cross stitch. Row 4, cross stitch. Row 5, cross stitch. So you probably already know what we're doing. We're chaining 3, turning our work, skipping the next stitch, and then making our cross stitches all the way across until one stitch remains and you put your double crochet in the final stitch. So you should know what you're doing from here on out. You're just finishing off the section. So you're going to do 4 rows of double, what am I saying? I keep saying that all the time, it's doing my head in. 4 rows of the cross stitch and 1 row of the single crochet. And that will be neckline shaping done. So I'm going to meet you back here because you don't need me to go over it. You're literally just doing what you've been doing for 2 panels, but on a smaller scale. So you're going to do 4 rows of cross stitch, 1 row of single crochet, and I advise to leave a long tail for seaming, but that's completely optional. But I will show you on the next screen what mine looks like when it's done. See you soon. Okay, so I've just done my neckline shaping on one side. So what we're going to do now, I know it looks a little crazy, but we're now going to add another bit on the opposite side. So let me just zoom in a little bit. Now, I'm not going to go over this bit with you because we've literally just done it. So what you're going to do is join your yarn in right here where the stitch marker is. You're going to join it in with a slip stitch, chain 1, 1 single crochet in that stitch. Sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat. And then you're going to do, oh, my voice just went weird then. Then you're going to do your back post single crochets all the way until 1 stitch remains, and then 1 single crochet in the final stitch. And then just keep making your section like you have been throughout the whole thing, but just here. And then I'll meet you back here for seaming the shoulders. So I'll see you soon. Okay, this is what you should have. So what we're going to do now is we can take out our stitch markers because we don't need those no more. So yeah, now would be a good time to maybe pin your work together to your back panel and just see how comfortable it is getting your head through the hole, because now is the perfect time to make adjustments. Because once we go further than this, there is no turning back. Well, there is, but you'd have to start like unpicking everything. Anyway. So I suggest, I am terrible, I am a serial non-blocker, but because I've said about this stitch, it can kind of come in a little bit because you're crossing yourself over and it just kind of brings it in a little bit more. I personally would suggest to block both of your front and your back panels before moving on to the seaming section. Whether I do or not is another story. I probably should do that. I mean, I have got plenty of time. So yeah, that is probably a good idea. So yeah, I will meet you back here for seaming shoulders. Okay, should we do a bit of seaming? So what we need to do is seam the shoulders. So get your back panel. I've got long ends all over the place. It makes it really awkward. But I'm going to snip one of these off in a minute because I don't need all of these ends. Right, lay your back panel so it is right side facing up. Let me just grab that end out of the way. So we started from the bottom and worked our way up. Here is the top. Now you're going to get your front panel and you're going to lay it so it's wrong side facing up. That means both right sides will be touching. Right sides together. So let me just get my front panel and lay it on so the wrong side is facing me, like so. Again, I've got loads of ends everywhere. So I left 3 long ends, but I won't need them all. I need that one, I'm going to use that one, and I'm going to use this one on the back panel. So I'm just going to shorten this one here. Where is my scissors? Let's just shorten that. Put that to one side. Right, so now we're just going to put a seam along here and a seam along here, and I am just going to do a single crochet seam. If you have a different seam that you want to do, then that's fine. You can use whatever you wish. I'm going to be using a single crochet seam. So let me just get myself in order and we'll do it. So I'm going to start from this end. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Now, because I left some long tails, I am literally going to be using this. If you didn't, then don't worry. All you got to do is join your yarn in through the very first stitch on the front panel and on the back panel and place a slip stitch and chain 1. So what I'm going to do is I've just gone through my front and my back panels. I'm going to take my long end that I left. I'm just going to pull it through. So I'm going to like yarn over and just pull that through. Okay, and then I'm going to chain 1. And we should all be at the same place and be ready to go. So all I'm going to do is go back through that same stitch, through the front and through the back, and I'm going to do a single crochet. And I'm going to do that through every single stitch, making sure to go through the front and the back and place a single crochet. That easy. So just keep doing that until you reach this end. I'll meet you here at this end. So I'm right near the end. I've got one more stitch left to place. I'm going to go through that final stitch. And there we go. One seamed shoulder. So let me just fasten that off. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller as well. Put a little knot in it. And there we are. We have one seamed shoulder. So for the second side, I've got my long end on the front. All I'm going to do is just flip it over and do exactly the same as what I've just done. Completely exactly the same. And then seam until I reach the end of my front panel, which is now on the back side, but that's okay. So yeah, I'll meet you here when you have 2 shoulder seams. Okay, so I've now done both of my shoulder seams. So what we're going to do now is mark out where our armholes are going to be. So I am going to flip this so that it's now right side facing out. And then just try and align it the best that I can. Let me just give it a little shaky. How are we feeling about this? I think I'm about there. Like so. So I'm going to put a measurement up on the screen and we're going to measure from one side down and place a stitch marker in the stitch that's closest to that measurement. So I'm going to put the measurements on the screen right now for armhole. Okay, so we're going to need 4 stitch markers for this part. So what we're going to do, let me just zoom in a little bit. We're going to measure just on one side. So I'm making a size small. My measurement was 18.5 centimetres. So let me grab my tape measure and a stitch marker. And I'm going to come from the top and I'm going to measure down 18.5. So for me, that falls actually at the beginning of a section, which is pretty cool. Not that it matters, it can fall wherever it falls, okay? So mine actually starts at the beginning of this section. I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to place it just around my front panel. Normally I go through both sides, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently today. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that exact same space on the back panel and place another stitch marker. Like so. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. I don't need to measure because I've already done that. I know that mine falls right at the beginning of my section. So I'm going to place my stitch marker on this side, on the same row. on the front panel only. And then I'm going to place my second stitch marker, same place, on the back panel, like so. Okay, so we now have our stitch markers placed. Now, if you follow my tutorials or my patterns, you'll know that usually I will then seam the side seam, and then I will work my sleeves in the round. I'm doing it a little bit different today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my sleeves up next, but I'm going to work them out up flat in rows. Okay, so what we're going to do, keep it so it's right side facing. I'm going to open it up like this and flip it on its side at the same time. And then we've got our 2 points where our sleeves are going to go. So we're going to be working backwards and forwards in rows. And then when we're done, we will seam the sleeve and the side seam all at the same time. A little bit different, but yeah, let's do it. So we're going to do a single crochet row to begin with. That's going to be our starting row. So we might need to have a couple attempts at this, because in order to keep working our stitch pattern, we need to have a multiple of 4. So my plan of action is I'm just going to lay my base down of my single crochets, then I'm going to count it, then I'm going to be like, right, what have I got to do to make that a multiple of 4? Because I might have to add in an extra 3 stitches or take away an extra 3 stitches. So you kind of want to do that evenly. So we're just going to go in, lay down our base row and see where we're at with the stitch count, because it has to be a multiple of 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to go by our rows as to how many stitches we're putting in. So we've got 2 rows of single crochets, well, 1 row of single crochet, 1 back post single crochet, but we're going to class them as 2 single crochets. And then we've got 4 rows of the cross stitch, which consists of double crochets. So every time you hit a row, which is your single crochet row, you're going to place 1 single crochet around that first stitch. When you hit a row, which is the cross stitch row, you're going to put 2 single crochets around that area. So let me start. I am actually starting on a single crochet row. So I'm just going to attach my hook with a slip stitch. Well, to attach my yarn actually, not my hook. Oh my goodness, what's going on? So I'm going to do a slip stitch to join in my yarn. I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to place 1 single crochet around that same stitch. So I started on the back post row basically. I'm now coming up to my cross stitch rows. So I've got 4 of those. So on each double crochet bar, I'm going to call it, I'm going to place 2 single crochets. So coming to that first cross stitch row, I'm placing 2 single crochets around that double crochet bar. Coming to the next row, 2 single crochets. The next row, 2 single crochets. And the next row, 2 single crochets. Now I have my 2 rows of single crochets. One is the actual single crochet row, the next one is the back post single crochet row. We're going to pop 1 single crochet in the top of both of those rows. Just 1. And now that brings us to the cross stitch rows again, where we have 4 rows. So we're going to put 2 single crochets around each of those. Come to my next one, 2. Next row, 2, 4th row, 2, and then I've got my single crochet rows again. So pop 1 single crochet in the top of that one and 1 single crochet in the top of the other one. And then that brings you back to your cross stitch rows, where you'll place 2 single crochets around the top of each row. Now keep repeating that until you get to your stitch marker. So I'm going to meet you back here when I've done all my stitches And I've also counted my stitches because remember, it's got to be a multiple of 4. So we might have to take away a couple of stitches or add them in. I'd probably suggest to take them away rather than add them in. But I'll see what happens when I get there. Wish me luck. Okay, so I've been incredibly jammy. I've got 60 stitches, which fits perfectly into 4. So I've been quite lucky. Now, if you find that you've got, like, for example, okay, like 58, you can either add 2 extra stitches somewhere in here, or you can take away 2 stitches. But you do need to make sure you have a multiple of 4. I've just been very lucky and just gone straight from one end to the other. Whee! Okay, next row. Row 2 is the cross stitch row. So I'm not going to do too much because you're going to know what you're doing. So we're going to chain 3, turn our work and do the cross stitch. So we're now going to do exactly the same sections as what we have been doing. So I'm going to be placing 4 cross stitch rows. And oh gosh, I've just picked up stitches from over here. What am I doing? Right, we're going to be doing 4 cross stitch rows and then a single crochet row. And then I'm going to change my colour. And then I'm going to do the back post single crochet row and then 4 cross stitch rows and then a single crochet row and then change my colour back again. And we're going to keep doing that until we feel happy with the length of our sleeve. Now I do suggest as well that you try it on the best you can. Maybe use some stitch markers or just run a little quick seam up it just to test to see the width of your sleeve, if you're happy with it. It's best to do it sooner rather than later, so you can come back to this base stitch area and make amendments, because if it's a bit tight you're going to want to add in a few more stitches. If it's a bit too baggy you're going to want to take some away. But it's definitely a good idea to not just go full steam ahead and to try it on, because it's easier to sort out sooner rather than later. And you know what I always say? You know how I know this? Because I did it myself not so long ago. I literally did one section, tried it on and was like, no, that definitely feels a bit tight. So I've changed what I'm doing and I've added in more stitches. This was before I recorded, by the way, just so you know. I had like 48 stitches on my first go and it was just too tight. And I'm now at 60. So yeah, I am going to let you get on your merry way, as I like to say. I am also going to work up my second sleeve at the same time once I get into the swing of things. So make sure when you do your second sleeve that you join it with the right side facing you, not the wrong side facing you. Make sure you do the exact number of stitches as what you have on this side, so you don't have one sleeve that's like looser than the other, because that wouldn't be good. And you can make it as long as you wish. I will also put some measurements on the screen with a rough guide of a sleeve length. So I'm going to do that now and I'm going to let you get on, and I'll meet you back here when we have 2 sleeves, almost kind of flappy sleeves, because we haven't seen them together yet. So yeah, I'll meet you back here when you have 2 flappy sleeves. Okay, so I couldn't quite fit mine on my desk. It's a bit too big, but I wanted to show you what it's like when it's laid out. So over here, if I can get my hand steady, sorry. Over here and here are my sleeves, and this bit here is the front panel, and that bit there is the back panel. So that's what it looks like. And now we need to fold it together so we can seam it. So I'm now going to fold it basically into the shape of a sweater. I can't really do that whilst I'm holding the camera, so I'm going to have to show you that in a second. How do I turn this off? I usually use a remote and now I don't know how to turn the camera off. Trust me with electrical devices. This This is what it looks like when it's folded. I will show you on my table how I did that. I literally just picked it up at the top of the shoulder seams and just kind of shook it, and it just naturally falls into this position. So what we're going to do now is we are going to seam, I'm probably going to start from the bottom, but we're going to seam up here and all the way across here, and then fasten off, and then come this side, seam up here, and then all the way across here. And then just do a few little finishing touches, and your Cosy Cross Sweater will be done. I've got to try and turn this thing off again. Oh, I need to call a professional in. I need a professional, please, to record my tutorials. Thank you. Right, I have roughly laid out the sweater, kind of like how it was on the floor, but not exactly because I don't have a lot of space. Now to fold it, you're just going to grab it from the shoulder seams, lift it up, kind of give it a little shake, just plonk it down. And it should pretty much line up. You might have to go around and readjust some little areas. But yeah, that is how you get it into the shape. Nice and easy. I have just refolded my sweater so that the right side is facing, because when I do my seam, I'm going to be doing a single crochet seam. Now originally I was using the mattress stitch, which meant I had to work on the right side. And I did it, I liked the look of it, but I just didn't like the feel of it. It felt really like hard and strange. So I'm using a single crochet seam. Now I have already done one, so I'm going to show you what it looks like, because the seam, it does pop through to the other side, but I actually quite like it. I don't mind it. So, and it feels nice as well. It feels nice and soft when I'm wearing it. So if you look at the right side of it, you can see it obviously on the pink. It does pop through a little bit, but I actually don't mind that. I don't mind how it looks. Once you've got it on, yeah, I like it. So that is what I'm doing. You can do any seam that you wish. You don't have to do the same one as me. So have a play about and see what you prefer. But I'm going to be doing a single crochet seam. So obviously I've done one side already. Don't panic about that, because it's going to be exactly the same thing for both sides. So I'm just going to lay out my panels. Right side, no, yeah, wrong side facing. And we're going to start from the bottom of the bottom panels, and we're going to go all the way up, and we're going to come all the way down the sleeve, all in one go. So my seam is quite easy for me to stay on track with keeping all my sides lined up. If you're doing a different seam where you're using a needle and thread, maybe you might want to pop a couple of stitch markers at a couple of points, just to make sure that you are keeping on track, because the last thing you want is mismatched rows, because you're going to really notice it. If it's, you turn it around and it's like that, you're going to be like, oh no, that's not quite right, it's mismatched. Right, single crochet seam, let's do it. So I am just going to twist my sweater around. So these are my bottom panels. I need a bigger table. I've literally got the wall right here. Everything's falling off of it all the time. So just put them together, kind of like that. We get my yarn ready. Like so. I started panicking then that I had the wrong hook, because I'm making a blanket as well in the evening, and I've been using a 6mm hook for that. I did just question if I had the right one then. Right, let me zoom in. Here we go. Here we go. About there, that'll do. So I'm just going to go into the bottom panel right in the corner of that first row. So I'm in one side. I'm pretty certain this is the back panel, but it doesn't matter. I'm now going to go through the next panel as well. I'm just going to go straight for a single crochet. Let me find my working end. Just yarn over and pull through a loop, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and go through both loops. So we're just going to do exactly the same as what we did when we added our sleeves. So for every single crochet row, so my next row is single crochet, I'm just going to put 1 single crochet around the single crochet bar at the end of that row. Now I've come to my cross stitch rows, which have a double crochet or a chain 3 at the end. I'm going to place 2 single crochets around those bars. Remember to go through both panels. So 2 around that one, and then, well, I've got 4 rows, so it's going to be 2 around the next one. Where is it? Making sure you keep it lined up. Yep, that's fine. Just checking I'm going through the right ones. I've got 2 more double crochet rows, so keep going with my 2 single crochets. Last one, 1, 2, and then I've got 2 single crochet rows, so 1 single crochet around those. I'm now in the pink section, lovely, and then I'm back to the double crochet rows. So that's 1 single crochet around the single crochet rows and 2 single crochets around the double crochet rows with the cross stitch on them. So keep doing that all the way along here, and then it'll just be exactly the same when you get to here. You're just going to keep going. Like if you lay it out, it's basically the same thing, although I've got my colours are a little bit different. Make sure you go in that corner. So I have got a little white section going in there. I'm going to make sure I go around that as well. And then keep going all the way down your sleeve. And if you want to, I haven't done it with mine because I'm not too bothered, but you could always do a row of single crochet around here when you get to the end as well, just to finish it off. But I didn't mind the way mine looked, so I just left that. But that's an option, okay? If you want to like come up here and then chain 1 and then go around the edge to finish it off, that's up to you. But like I say, I didn't do that. I just was like, oh yeah, that looks all right, and left it. So I'll meet you back here when you have your sweater like made up, pretty much. And then all we've got to do is the neckline. And you finally get to try it on properly. And hopefully it's okay. Fingers crossed, it's okay. I can't wait. I've already tried mine on with the mattress stitch. And like I say, I did like the way it looked, but I just didn't like the feel of it. I could feel it all down the sleeve. And then when I did the single crochet seam, couldn't feel it. So that's why I went for that. Right, I'm babbling. I will see you again soon when you have your sweater made up. Right, so we are now near the end of the tutorial. All I'm going to do now is just put a row of single crochets around my neckline. That's all I'm going to do on mine because I'm quite happy with how my neckline is. But if you feel like you want to do a decrease row after, then you can do some single crochets and then pop a couple of single crochet 2 together evenly. That can help bring it in a bit. But I'm just going to do 1 round with you now and then that's it. Right, let's do it. So you've got to have your sweater right side facing. We'll be working on the right side. Let me just zoom in again. Here we go. Right, I'm going to flip it round so I've got the back facing me because we're going to join in basically right after our shoulder seam. Let me just get my yarn. I'm going to do mine in pink. Hopefully it looks okay. We'll soon find out. Okay, so I've got my shoulder seam right here. I'm going to find my first stitch after the shoulder seam, which is right here. And I'm just going to go straight in with a single crochet. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through both loops. Single crochet, love it. Right, we're just going to place 1 single crochet in every stitch along the back neckline. So I'll meet you here when you have reached the opposite shoulder seam. So it's just 1 single crochet in every stitch. I'm at the opposite side and I'm at my next shoulder seam. I'm just going to skip over that, and now we're going to be working around the single crochet bars and the double crochet bars, and we're going to be doing exactly the same as what we've been doing throughout the whole pattern. So it's 1 single crochet around the single crochet bars and then 2 single crochets around the double crochet bars. So you're just going to keep doing that all the way down the side until you reach the front neckline. So I'm about to come onto my front neckline, so I'm going to put a single crochet in the same stitch that has got the neckline shaping in it. So 1 single crochet in there, and then 1 single crochet in every stitch all along the neckline. Well, along the front neckline, sorry. All the way across. And then when you get to here, you're going to do exactly the same thing. 1 single crochet around a single crochet bars and 2 single crochets around the double crochet bars. And then you're going to skip over your shoulder seam, and then you're going to slip stitch to the first stitch. I mean, I'll meet you back here before there anyway. So just keep going and I'll meet you at the end of this round. So I have now put in my final stitch. I'm going to skip over my shoulder seam, come to the very first single crochet and pop a slip stitch in there. Now I am just going to try this on quickly and see if I want to add any more rows around my neckline or not. It's the best way to do it. It's me going, oh, I don't think I'm going to. Oh, hang on a minute, I've got that the wrong way around. It's that way. There we go. It just kind of neatens it up a little bit. But I don't think I am going to add any more. But I'm going to try it on just to be sure. If you put yours on and you think, oh, it feels a little like loose maybe around here, then I'd suggest to maybe do another round where you can add single crochet 2 together into it, which is a decrease. I'd probably suggest doing like 5 or 6 single crochets and then doing a single crochet 2 together and then repeating that all the way around. So like to say 6 single crochets, single crochet 2 together, 6 single crochets, single crochet 2 together, and that can help bring it in a little bit more. But I'm now going to try mine on. If I come back and I'm like, all my ends are weaved in, you're going to know that, oh, she's done. Maybe not, who knows. Anyway, I'm going to try mine on quickly before I fasten off to make sure I'm happy with it. Okay, so I've just tried mine on and I'm really happy with my neckline, but I have decided I'm going to add a little bit of a decrease row along the bottom. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. Let me just fasten off and then we're going to put a little bit on the bottom just to finish it off. Okay, bottom. I am literally going to flip it round. I'm going to be working on the right side again. So all we're going to do is just find your seam, any side seam, it don't matter which side you start on. Let me just get my yarn ready. So I'm going to put a base row down first where I'm going to do a single crochet row, and then I'm going to come back to it and add some decreases into it. I'm forgetting what I'm saying. Right, I'm going to go into the first stitch that I can find because I am working into the bottom of a chain, so it does look a little bit different. But just pop that in the first stitch or the first chain after one of your side seams. And I'm just going to join that in with a single crochet and then put 1 single crochet in every single stitch all the way around, and when you get to the opposite seam you're just going to skip over your side seam and then carry on placing single crochets all the way around. So when you've done that I will meet you back here for row 2, which is going to be a decrease row. Okay, so I'm right at the end of the row, or the round actually, sorry, working in rounds now. I'm going to skip over my side seam and just put a slip stitch in the very first single crochet. Like so. Right, I'm now going to do a decrease row. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Okay, so I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do 8 single crochets and then I'm going to do a single crochet 2 together. So go in the very first stitch with your chain in it, right in here, and we're going to go 8 single crochets across. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I'm going to do a single crochet 2 together in the next 2 stitches. So go in the first stitch and bring up a loop. Got 2 loops on my hook. Come to the next stitch and do the same thing. So put my hook in the loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I've got 3 loops on my hook. I'm now going to yarn over and go through all 3. So that is a decrease stitch. Single crochet, 2 together. So now I'm going to go in the next 8 single crochets again. No? Yeah? Kind of. I'm going to go in the next 8 stitches with 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I am going to do a single crochet 2 together. And then I'm just going to repeat that all the way around the bottom of my sweater. And then I'm going to try it on to make sure that I'm happy with it. I wasn't going to do it, to be fair. And it looked alright the first few times I tried it on. But then after a while I thought, I don't know, I feel like I could need to bring it in a little bit. Let's just do it. Okay. So when you get to the end of this round, slip stitch to the first single crochet to join it, try it on and make sure you're happy with how it fits. If you think, no, I need a few more decreases, then you can either frog that round and add more decreases, or you can do another round, just add a few more in round 3. So I'll meet you back here in a little while I've tried it on. I've just tried mine on and I'm really, really happy with that amount of decreases. I'm going to add maybe 1 or 2 more rows of single crochet along the bottom. You can add as many as you wish or stop here, it's completely up to you. All you need to do is chain 1, turn your work, and then put a single crochet in every stitch. And then just repeat that round as many times as you wish. So I will meet you back here when your sweater's done. Woohoo! So my Cosy Cross Sweater is complete. I ended up adding just a total of 3 rounds along the bottom. So the first round was the base round, then the decrease round, and then just another round of single crochet. And that's just finished it off nicely. So there we are, we've done it again. So I just want to say a massive thank you once again for joining me on another tutorial, and I'll see you again soon for another one. Hopefully, I should do, but yeah, see you again soon. Bye.